JWT. JSON Web Tokens are an open industry standard RFC 7919 method for representing claims securely between two parties. JWT.io allows you to decode, verify, and generate JWT. So this is the official website at JWT.io, and we have the learn more about JWT, and we also see some libraries. So here we have the debugger warning. JWTs are credentials which can grant access to resources. Be careful where you paste them. We do not record tokens. All validation and debugging is done on the client side. So here we're using the algorithm HS256. This is to the left side. We have the encoded part. So paste a token here, and we can see three different colors here. We have this light pink, we have this light purple, and then we have this cyan color. And to the right we have the decoded part, the payload and secret. So as you can see, the header is in light pink or red maybe, as you can see here. So the head would be this part of our encoded. Now we have the, what else we have? We will have the payload, that is the data, and it will be in a light purple, so it will be in this part here. And as you can see, we're using JSON obviously, and we're using key value pairs. So for example, here we have the key sub that is inside double quotes, and the value will be this number. Then we will have the name, that is the key, and the value would be John Doe. So this is the payload. And finally we will have the verified signature in this cyan color that is represented for these numbers here, these numbers and letters. So this is our three steps here: the header, the payload, and the verified signature. So that is that. And what else do we have here? So if we go here into the JWT libraries, we are gonna see all this information here. If you press Ctrl F and you paste in npm install JSON, okay, so this is the way that you install it. If you have installed Node.js in your machine, you can install npm install JSON Web Token, and you should be able to see it in your package.json. For example, if I go to my, I have a folder here, I have a folder JSX, and I'm gonna open it with Visual Studio Code. So I'm gonna open it, I'm gonna right click, and then I'm gonna press code space that, like that, and we're gonna open it in Visual Studio Code. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna open my incorporated terminal, control plus tilde, and we don't have a package.json. As you can see here, it's empty, this folder. So what we should do is npm init and then -y, so we don't have to insert anything, and just press enter. And yeah, this created a package.json for us, as you can see. Now what we are gonna do here is we're gonna npm install, and then it's gonna be JSON, like that, JSON Web Token, so the whole thing, and then press enter. So as you can see in the library, you just press Ctrl F and you look for it. So it's gonna be in this part in Node.js. So we have the npm install JSON Web Tokens. It has to be the whole word, not just JWT, but JSON Web Token. So let's see. Okay, it has been installed. And okay, if we go to our package.json, if we go inside of our dependencies, you can see that JSON Web Token has been installed. Is JSON Web Token 9.0.0, and that's pretty much it. That's how you will install JSON Web Token in your machine. So but right now we're gonna focus on some concepts. So right now we're gonna go into learn more about JWT. So we're gonna click here and here we have, so you have this free handbook if you want. So what is JSON Web Token? JSON Web Token, JWT, is an open and standard RFC 7519 that defines a compact and self-contained way for securing transmitting information between parties as a JSON object. This information can be verified and trusted because it is digitally signed. JWTs can be signed using a secret with the HMAC algorithm or a public/private key pair using the RSA or the ECDSA. So when they say a secret, if we go back to their official website, and we see here this tree, we have the header, the payload, and the verified signature or the secret here. So we have 3 steps, and each one is connected via that. So that is that. Although JWTs can be encrypted to also provide secrecy between parties, we will focus on signed tokens. Signed tokens can be verified the integrity of the claim contained within it, while encrypted tokens hide those claims from other parties. When tokens are signed using public/private key pairs, the signature also certifies that only the party holding the private key is the one that signed it. And as you can see here, we're using key value pairs. As you can see, we're using JSON, we open curly braces, and then we have key value pairs. So here we have the algorithm key, and we will have this value that is the HS256, that will be the header, and then we have the key type. We have it here as TYP inside double quotes, and then the value would be the JWT inside double quotes. So that is that. So when should you use JSON Web Tokens? Here are some scenarios where JSON Web Tokens are useful. Authorization, information exchange. Now, authorization. This is the most common scenario for using JWT. Once the user is logged in, each subsequent request will include the JWT, allowing the user to access routes, services, and resources that are permitted with that token. Single sign-on is a feature that widely uses JWT nowadays because of its small overhead and its ability to be easily used across different domains. So that is the authorization, and now we're gonna see the information exchange. JSON Web Tokens are a good way of securely transmitting information between parties because JWTs can be signed. For example, using public-private key pairs, you can be sure that the senders are who they say they are. Okay. Additionally, as the signature is calculated using the header and the payload, so here we have the header, and the header is pretty much in this encoded part. It will be the red part, or this light pink, and the payload would be this light purple, and they are both connected by this dot. So additionally, as the signature is calculated using the header and the payload, you can also verify that the content hasn't been tampered with. What is the JSON Web Token structure? In its compact form, JSON Web Token consists of 3 parts separated by dots, which are the header, the payload, and the signature. So as we can see here, in the decoded part, we have the header, we have the payload, and the verified signature. And in the encoded part, there's pretty much the same, but they are separated by dots. So this red color is the header, separated by a dot, of the purple, that is the payload, and the cyan color, that is the verified signature. So it consists of 3 parts separated by dots. Therefore, JWT typically looks like the following. So you have a bunch of X, that Y, a bunch of Y, that a bunch of C. So this is just like a general syntax. Let's break down the different parts. The header. So they're talking about this red color here, the header, algorithm, and token type. Let's see. The header typically consists of 2 parts: the type of the token, which is JWT, and the signing algorithm, VNUs such as the HMAC, the SHA-256 or the RSA. For example, we have here, we open curly braces, we have the key value pairs, and the key would be algorithm inside double quotes, and the value would be inside double quotes HS256, and then the type, the key would be the type and the value would be the JWT, and both are inside double quotes since this is JSON. Then this JSON is base 64 URL encoded to form the first part of the JWT. Now the payload. The second part of the token is the payload, which contains the claims. Claims are statements about an entity, typically the user, and additional data. There are three types of claims: registered, public, and private claims. So they're talking about the payload here, the one that is in this light purple color. So this is our payload, that is the data. We have three. We have the registered, the public, and the private claims. So there are three types of claims. Now, registered claims. These are a set of predefined claims which are not mandatory but recommended to provide a set of useful interoperable claims. Some of them are ISS, that is the issuer, the expiration, EXP, expiration time, and the sub, that is the subject, and finally the audience, the AUD, and others. Notice that the claim names are only 3 characters long, as JWT is meant to be compact. So for example, here we have ISS, then we have, that is the issuer, we have the expiration time, that is EXP, 3 letters, we have the subject, that is SUB, we have the audience, that is AUD. Now we have public claims. These can be defined at will by those using JWTs, but to avoid collisions they should be defined in the IANA JSON Web Token Registry, or be defined as a URI that contains a collision resistant namespace. Private claims. These are the custom claims created to share information between parties that agree on using them, and are neither registered or public claims. So an example of a payload is something like this. We open curly braces and we have 3, in this case 3 key value pairs. We have the sub and this value, we have this key name and this value John Doe, then we have this key admin, and now the value is a boolean. It's a boolean true, so it doesn't have to be inside double quotes. The payload is then base 64 URL encoded to form the second part of the JSON Web Token. Do note that for signed tokens, this information, though protected against tampering, is readable by anyone. Do not put secret information in the payload or header elements of a JWT unless it is encrypted. Signature. To create a signature part, you have to take the encoded header, the encoded payload as secret, the algorithm specified in the header, and sign that. For example, if you want to use the HMAC SHA-256 algorithm, the signature will be created in the following way. And they're talking about this final part, the verified signature. As you can see, we have the HMAC SHA-256, we open parentheses, and then we have the base 64 URL encoded. We pass in the header inside of the parentheses, then we have the plus sign, and we pass in a dot inside double quotes, plus to the next line we have the base 64 URL encode, and now we pass in the payload. As you can see here, we put a comma, and outside of the base 64 we will have finally the secret. The signature is used to verify the message wasn't changed along the way, and in the case of tokens, signed with a private key. It can also verify that the sender of the JWT is who it says it is. Putting all together, the output is 3 base 64 URL strings separated by dots that can be easily passed in HTML and HTTP environments, while being more compact when compared to XML basic standards such as XAML. So this would be the encoded part. As you can see, we have the header, we have the header, then we have a dot connected to the payload and a dot connected to the verified signature. The following shows a JWT that has the previous header and payload encoded, and it is signed with a secret, so this should be our final JWT. If you want to play with JWT and put these concepts into practice, you can use the JWT.io debugger, so we can click here if you want. And as you can see, we have some, you can play around here. For example, if I mess around and the header, for example, there's a 9, so if I delete it, let's say, so now my header is empty. If I put the 9 back, okay, it's working. Let's say I take it off and I put a 6 instead, it's still not working because it has to be a 9, so I put that. And let's say I mess around with the payload now, and the final Q, I take it off, so as you can see the payload is changing. I replace it by an R. Okay, so you can do that. Let's put back the Q, let's put a number maybe. Okay, with a number, let's put a T. What else? Let's put a capital G. Okay, it's not working now. A T. Okay, it was a Q. And okay, so let's just leave it like that. And now verify signature. Let's say I mess around and I take this 5 off. Let's see what happens. Okay, and let's put it back. Okay, so you can play around with the encoded decoded parts. What else we have here? So encoded decoded parts. So how do JSON web tokens work? In authentication, when the user successfully logs in using their credentials, a JSON web token will return. Since tokens are credentials, great care must be taken to prevent security issues. In general, you should not keep tokens longer than required. You also should not store sensitive session data and browser storage due to lack of security. Whenever the user wants to access a protected route or resource, the user agent should send the JWT, typically in the authorization header using the bearer schema. The content of the header should look like the following. So we have the authorization colon bearer, and then in the angle brackets the token. This can be in certain cases a stateless authorization mechanism. The service protected routes will check for a valid JWT in the authorization header, and if it's present, the user will be allowed to access protected resources. If the JWT contains the necessary data, the need to query the database for certain operations may be reduced, though this may not always be the case, so check that out. Note, if you send JWT tokens through HTTP headers, you should try to prevent them from getting too big. Some servers don't accept more than 8 kilobytes in the headers. If you are trying to embed too much information in a JWT token, like by including all the user permissions, you may need an alternative solution like the auth fine-grained authorization. If the token is sent in the authorization header, cross-origin resource sharing, the CORS or CORS, won't be an issue as it doesn't use cookies. The following diagram shows how a JWT is obtained and used to access APIs or resources. So the first part is the client, the application communicates with the authorization server. The second part is the authorization server communicates with the client, with the application, and the third part is the client, the application communicates with the resource servers, our API. The application is detailed here. 1. The application or client requests authorization to the authorization server. So this is the first part. This is performed through one of the different authorization flows. For example, a typical OpenID Connect compliant web application will go through the /auth/authorized endpoint using the authorization code flow. Now the second one, when the authorization is granted, the authorization server returns an access token to the application. And finally, the third one, the application uses the access token to access the protected resource like an API. Do to know that with signed tokens, all the information contained within the token is exposed to other users and other parties, even though they are unable to chain it. This means you should not put secret information within the token. Okay. Why should you use JSON Web Tokens? Let's talk about the benefits of the JSON Web Tokens JWT when compared to the simple web token, the SWT, and security assertion markup language tokens, SEML. As JSON is less verbose than XML when it is encoded, its size is also smaller, making JWT more compact than SEML. This makes JWT a good choice to be passing HTML and HTTP environments. Security-wise, SWT can only be symmetrically signed by a shared secret using the HMAC algorithm. However, JWT and SEML tokens can be used in public-private key pair in the form of an XStat 509 certificate for signing XML with XML digital signature without introducing obscure security holes is very difficult when compared to the simplicity of signing with JSON. JSON parsers are common in most programming languages because they map directly to objects. Conversely, XML doesn't have a natural document to object mapping. This makes it easier to work with JWT than SEML assertions. Regarding usage, JWT is used at internet scale. This highlights the ease of client-side processing of JSON Web Token on multiple platforms, especially mobile. You can see here the encoded, the decoded part versus this is the SEML part. So the SEML encoded and the SEML decoded, as you can see, is very messy, more tedious to work with. So that is the benefit to work with JWT. So the comparison of the length of an encoded JWT and an encoded SEML. If you want to read more about the JSON Web Token and even start using them to perform authentication in your own application, browse to the JSON Web Token landing page. So let's check out. Let me see. So they're sending us to this website, and you can check out this information, but we're gonna end this video right now.